All right, guys. Hey, I'm here. MTEK to the moon. We'll see. All right, we should see things start pricing here at. Let me get a little more set up here. You guys are first in. I need to focus. I need to be in focus. I'll probably be sitting like this. All right. Let me get this in front of me so it feels like I'm talking to you. I will have the Reddit thread over here, and I'm going to get for me today, no settled cash, no MTEK for me. Grab Google. Nice job tagging along to Sport Matt and Wisdom Gain. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the support. Yeah, if you guys can subscribe, pump this out. Looks like the market is coming down a bit today. I think people probably taking some profits off of yesterday's run. Near the last 2 days run, I got out of some of the swing trades I had. It just felt more comfortable to put cash back in my pocket. I've gotten into some sketchy Chinese plays, HAPP. Got in there at 40 cents last week. GFAI, got into that today. Just small positions, not going to go more than $1,000, something like that on those. We saw one of them run today, MDJH. I don't think you want to get in at this point, but if you had seen it, a couple months ago when they announced some kind of share offering and got in early, the trick is to try to be in these, try to kind of already have your seat at the table before dinner is served. Otherwise, you're just picking up scraps and trying to get little bounces that are, we know where these end up. They end up in the toilet, and that's not where anybody wants to be swimming. So let me just put out a little bit. Just went, I'm going to tweet this out live to cover the MTEK IPO debut. Join us for live trading that should kick off at 11:20. Quote at 11:25. Open for quote at 11:25 p.m. EST. Tweeted. Just tweeted. All right. Why does Webull say it's halted? It's not halted. It's just hasn't started trading yet. At least that's my guess because I'm not looking at the moment. Okay, I'm gonna bring. Oh yeah, everything. Unity down to almost 100. Sentinel back down below 44. Really not trying to swing trade in this market. It just ruins my day when the market tanks and I get too extended on, and I get overextended on any kind of margin call or anything. So much nicer to just be sitting in, sitting on the upside. You can hear my daughter chiming in the background. So, hello, Blossom Learning Center. Hey, Trading Fit Girl. I want to introduce you guys all to Trading Fit Girl. If you are not following her on Twitter, I highly advise you to. Her handle is, oh yeah, I can actually, I think, post this here. 1 second. We're going to, this is an example of a banner. Wait a minute. I think she won't mind. It is 3D Insights, 3D Insights, and a bunch of emojis. So go look at that. I will try to do a better job here and grab her handle. Trading Fit Girl. There we go. All right, so I definitely get a lot of good ideas from Trading Fit Girl, Allie. Sorry, I don't mean to give away your real name here, but she just put together some videos on trading basics. She is really on top of the lockup expirations and the QPX quiet period expirations. So those have been really, really good opportunities recently, pretty consistent. She's got a great handle on them. Um, Someone I really respect and follow. I think her mindset on this is very solid. Get in there and follow her. So I'll leave that up for a little bit, unless you want me to take it down. But let's go here. All right, so let me pull up the Webull app just to be prepared, and then we can do a little review of the of what I wrote up before of the MTEK Maris Tech IPO. So if I look tired, I am a little tired. I was up early this morning to take my daughter to her swimming class. She's been swimming since she was about 6 months old. Loves it. It's a great way to get her tired out so she takes a big nap. Thoughts on MTEK Open and wait to buy or jump right in? That is what we will get to in a second here. We have about 15 minutes before we start to see pricing. So I think we have plenty of time to cover this. I just want to make sure I get everything up. So what we're going to do is we're going to get MTEK up in the Webull desktop app. This is not in the browser. In the browser, they don't give you this information. And what we're going to see here is we're going to see the IPO crossing. Don't pay too much attention to this order book right here. It doesn't mean a whole lot. We can try to glean some information from it. Doesn't look like anyone's trying to just go nuts on this and set, $20, $15 bid orders up here. We do see some, sellers coming in, but again, this is way too early to get any indication here. What we're really going to be playing off of is this IPO crossing. This is going to give us the debut price. Or what it's going to debut at, and we're going to be able to see it move, how many shares are moving, if there's a sell side or a buy side imbalance. It's really going to tell us everything that we don't already know about whether we want to get in on the debut here. So while we consider that, let's take a look at the PowerPoint from last week, and then we'll read my notes that I sent out in the newsletter yesterday. If you don't get the newsletter, I'd be surprised that you're here without getting that newsletter. If you don't, go to ipowarriors.com and sign up for the newsletter. It is free, at least for the time being. I'm probably going to need to start asking for some support here because I am now paying. We've exceeded the free level of MailChimp's subscriber list, so we're over 1,000 subscribers, and now I'm paying out of pocket to bring you all this wonderfully researched news, which I know helps me just doing the process, but I do intend to, not be spending my money to do this in the future. So what is Maris Tech? Well, Maris Tech is an Israeli company that develops electronic components for video surveillance and analysis. So it is electronic components that are built into video cameras, defense devices, satellites, and other, electronics that has software built into it that handles artificial intelligence, analysis, compression, a bunch of other things that are, pretty high tech. The revenue is up 151% for the 6 months ending June 30th, 2021. You have to take everything with a grain of salt when they're comparing it to, say, the first half of 2020 when the pandemic first hit. So they might be cherry picking those numbers. 178% for the 6 months ending June 30th. They are, negative across all baseline financials. That means they have an operating loss, negative net income, negative cash flow, but all of their metrics are moving towards, positive numbers. In other words, they are smaller losses than they were against the time frame, the previous time frames. The underwriter is Aegis Capital. They've done a few low float IPOs. Struggling to think of which ones they did recently. Someone can throw that in the chat if you remember offhand. Oh, I'm not sharing. Sorry. Sharing is caring. Share screen. We will share. I think this will create. All right. Let's share the moon. Nope. Add to stream. Okay. And let me move this up here. Here we go. So we are looking at this Maris Tech, and the float actually got picked up to 3 points. Okay, so just February 2nd, And they upped the float to 3.7 million shares. And it's actually units. And what this means is we have warrants. Those warrants are attached to the share. So if you put an allocation request, I did put an allocation request in. I got 119 shares on $500 requested, which is a full request fill. When we see that, we have to be a little bit careful because that means that there was not a ton of demand, and those who did get, who did request shares are now sitting on maybe more than they expected. And that's a substantial, if this does have any kind of debut premium, there's an incentive for me to, and anyone else who got full allocations, to take profits right away. People want to talk about other things. VLCN, yes, okay, now you're reminding me. Yeah. So VLCN, that one did really well off the debut. It's since really tanked hard. They did a follow-up offering recently. We can pull up some of these right now. Let me get some of this other stuff out of the way. Let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, we'll throw this up here and take a look at some of the others. Okay, this is Sentinel. I sold out of Sentinel yesterday. Bagged my win, and just feel better not being in this market. It's so, unless I'm really long, I don't really care. Palantir hurts my margins, but that it's up or down, I just am looking at 3 to 5 years out into the future and saying it'll be fine. Inspira, same thing. I was really holding my nose as it sat down there at 220, 230 and just forcing myself to buy more. Now it's back up to 330. I'm back in the slightly green, but not planning to sell that until we get some kind of pop, as others in this chat group have pointed out. And this is where I learn a lot from other traders, like Trading Fit Girl pointed out that you got to keep an eye on that IPO, that lockup expiration, where those warrants are good, is right around 550. So if the price gets back up to 550, you have to look for resistance there. Let's take a look at VLCN, because we see that it, as I recall, the opening debut was a downward halt, and then so it opened at 9, came down to 7, and then rebounded right away and ran up to 15. The next day was pretty volatile, dropped a bit, had a pretty big rally. I think this was all in sort of like EV. There's a lot of EV hype in I think this was around Rivian and other things, and this made a run, and it has since sold off. So most of these low floats, even when they run, they kind of tend to have their day under $3 at some point. You got to be, you got to be careful with these. This is not the IPO to buy and hold. You can hold the warrants, I guess. Certainly, if you like IINN, Inspira, which I do. The shorter play, I will trade the common shares, and then for the long play, I will hold the warrants. Sing Sin in. They did some, they did FGI. Thought FGI was the benchmark group, or yeah. Anyway, so Volcan, Inspira, this one, even though it is relatively down now, my first entry here actually did play this IPO and then kind of bought in more, and then bought in more and bought in more and bought in more. And I had something like 17,000 shares and bought my last. I even bought in on this day right at 230, the dental zone, when it's time to see the dentist at 230. I'm a dad. I get to make these jokes. Then the next day it ripped to 9. So exited, made a huge win there. Got in again around here under 3. Popped here, sold out again. So this is my third trip on IINN. Again, I started adding a bit early, started getting in here at around, started adding here at around 380, 390. Just kept adding, added a whole lot more down here. Now we're back up and seem to be kind of on the uptrend. I think shorts have maybe started playing this a little bit tighter where they're not shorting it all the way down to 230. But again, I believe, they've delivered on their milestones so far. They're looking at FDA approval by the end of this year for the core component, or for the core device, and the extended device by 2023. It's certainly at this valuation, sort of surprised that it doesn't get bought out by somebody, but I like it. Definitely down here, I saw very little risk, so I like that one. FGI was benchmark, yeah. 222, yeah. You will even see, Trading Fit Girl set. You'll see her level 2 orders at 222. I've seen them before too. It's she likes 222. I like 230. Can't really go wrong at that point. We're talking pennies to make big percentages. So choose your targets, play by your rules, and then reap the rewards of patience, research, hard work, and following the right people. I put her on the list. So we are getting towards that time. We still have some time let me get back to pulling up. So we're going to put MTEK. I like to have the desktop app seems to be better for the real time. It's even a little bit ahead of the desktop app. But the desktop app, at least in the opening minutes of the IPO, doesn't seem to show the candle. I have to switch back and forth, and there's a little bit of a time delay. So I like to use the desktop app really for this IPO crossing. We do have a minute. We can take a look at, for example, Maris Tech. We can take a look at their website. Just get a little bit more excited about their technology. And while we're waiting for that to load, we can. All right. Okay. So, this IPO 3 months ago might have been really exciting. It's a very kind of sexy product line there in intelligent video surveillance and analytics, which sounds really cool. And they do drones and satellites, and we got missiles and pictures of space. Got a lot of cool stuff. Chipboards, these are their actual products. There is software in this as well. So I don't know. Today is also 222. Wow. Yeah, it's your day. Maybe that's good enough reason to go all in on MTEK. No, don't use don't use that kind of logic for deciding your trades. Boredom, favorite numbers, nothing better to do. Heck, what could go wrong? Those are all bad reasons to enter a trade that I have done before, which is why I know they are not good reasons to enter a trade. Let's take a look at Twitter too, and we can see if anyone's talking about this. Let's see what people are saying. I don't think this is anything proprietary to show you guys. I wish I could hide some of this, but all right. I am the only one talking about this, along with other people who may be here. Gotta like some people, get this word out here. No, Buck and Tweaky had to work today, but not a whole lot. This doesn't necessarily indicate a bad thing, but the ones where we've really seen big rips tend to get a little bit more attention than this. I'm kind of surprised because low float IPOs have been pretty hot, at least after, or maybe the trading groups want to let it cool off. Let's talk about what I'm looking for on this, and then we have about 5 minutes to do that, and then we can start watching the pre-debut indication. I will pull my, I guess I can do this without showing you all my email address or my personal email. This is what I wrote up and sent out yesterday. MTEK, I already told you what it's about, the consideration. So I mean, we can look at the company itself, but I don't think that really matters so much for these plays. That it is not some random Chinese company is significant. It's not going to be a stealth setup. And I had some. It's not going to be enough time here. My allocation. Yeah, I got a full allocation of 119 shares on a $500 request. I submitted it a couple days ago. Generally speaking, when I get a full allocation, I tend to think, if I got a full allocation and everybody else got a full allocation and there's any kind of debut premium, everyone's just going to lock in their profits and get out of it. So when I know that there's full allocations out there to retail, and I know they even upsized it, if this was 2 million shares, I'd say, okay, well, that's super low float. 3.1, I was kind of like, well, that's low float. And 4 million shares is low. It's low float, but it's not ultra low float. It's in the 3.7 is kind of like, all right, so the price range was 420 to 580. It means that instead of hitting everybody up for 580 and doing less shares, they, went with more shares and, opted for a lower price point, which might be good. Maybe more people feel compelled to get in. Maybe it gives us some room to get a debut premium. And remember, we have warrants. So those warrants are probably anywhere from 60 to 80 cents. So if this debuts at 360 or 380, that doesn't mean you taking a bath right off the bat. It just means that your warrants are in there as well, and you have to factor those in. Warrants do end up being kind of a little bit of a wild card there. So let's just skip over. We already talked about it. Talked about what the company does. More importantly, this price is pretty attractive, actually. The low float is just even 3.7 million shares. So it will, in the next, if not today, at some point, this drops to a low enough price where day traders go, hey, let's accumulate in the day trade groups. You see someone like Zach Morris and his crew starting to pump this if we see sub 3. So no reason to take a loss on this one on day 1 or day 2. Let it go. It'll pump. FGI did the same thing. I didn't sell it right away. I got 16 shares. It didn't matter. 26 shares, something insignificant. But waited was day 5. It popped. And if I had been up in the morning, I could have gotten $8 a share for it. I waited. It hit 6. Sold that. I think I didn't even do anything with the warrants. Probably just, I don't know. I'll probably forget about them one day. They'll be worth nothing. So it won't matter. Anyway, I'm not underwater on the deal, so whatever. Get the sense that day traders are going to key on this one. The curveball for me is the warrants. As long as the market continues upbeat trend, well, market down a bit today. So the SPY is slightly up, but a lot of people who saw their positions in growth stocks, especially, are kind of having a little bit of a return to where they were at the end of last week, maybe a little bit better. I'm not going to worry about these. The risk factors on this are, the warrant redemption is at 525, I believe someone pointed out. Recent challenges due to COVID have affected employment and supply chain. So on the surface, the low float is going to make it on, it's going to be on people's radars. But a lot of low floats have kind of dropped first, so people may not be trying to buy the debut on this. People may be willing to take a minute and let it come down to them. My guess is that we don't see an extreme debut premium. Even if it debuts at 420, that's actually a premium given that we got warrants with it. So we're going to be watching the buy side and sell side indication. If we see a sell side indication, there's no reason to buy in on the debut. If we see a buy side indication and it's at or above the IPO, it might be interesting to get in on this, to start a position on the debut. We really don't know how the warrants will affect this, except that it does impact the price usually. So with that being said, I think it's time to turn our attention to the imbalance. So what we're looking at here is we're seeing a buy side imbalance we're seeing pretty small numbers here. That's interesting to me at a price that's not that low. So, if we saw 350, 360, I might think, I don't know about this, but I don't know that this level 2 information means a whole lot. But we are seeing pretty small numbers to start with here. They can open this for trading starting at 11:35. There is a mandatory 10-minute waiting period, so it's not going to go before that. We're only 2 minutes into this, so the price could come way down. We did see, I believe it was hour started at like 550, came all the way down to 450 before it actually debuted. So a lot of these, we see them sort of start a little bit higher and kind of come down. We see that represented here. Sell side imbalance, I would not rush in to go buy a whole bunch of more shares at this point. I would either wait for it to debut and potentially drop baseline. And, we have seen a lot of them just sort of drop baseline and then kind of fall throughout the day. And we have some hints that there might be accumulators building their positions down here. We'll see that in level 2 if there's kind of twin orders below the baseline price, kind of picking off any dips. That's that's what I'll be looking for as sort of a hint that there might be a pump coming in the near future. But we are seeing buy side, sell side flip at around 380. I'm going to check on my phone real quick and just see if we do have any sort of, if we see any pricing on the warrants at this point. That would be interesting. My phone is slow. INW, MTEK, W. Yeah, there's no IPO crossing on the warrants, so I have no idea what those are going to be valued at when it starts. Warrant conversion is 125 the exercise price. Yes, that is true. Okay, my phone, hold on. So 306 with the buy side imbalance. We are not going to get any kind of debut premium on this, it looks like, which could be good. I mean, if we don't have a debut premium, then allocation recipients aren't likely to just sell right away. We do then need to watch out for, we then want to watch out for sell walls. If it starts to come up, we would expect people to start taking profits at $4 or $4.20 when they start feeling like, okay, well, I don't really want to be holding this. But this is not going to be an immediate just sell off at this price, I don't believe. In fact, at $3, it's pretty interesting for a debut entry. We've got at least, if anyone has better insights into if they've recognized some patterns in this level 2 stuff, I'd be very interested in understanding this better. It seems like everyone's buying above the current price, which is interesting. Or maybe I just can't get down far enough. 50, do I get 100? No. The asks, yeah, I mean, people are going to sell off as it goes up. It's quite a lot of volume to sell. Sell side balance at 345, buy side balance at 3. We're already seeing this is a small number of shares to be on the imbalance. So 345, I think it's sell side imbalance at 344. So one thing to consider is we often see halts on low float debuts one way or the other. And with those halts, as in, I don't know if it'll halt up or down, but there's usually a lot of volatility, and it only takes about 10% usually to trigger a halt. I think sometimes it's 20%, but if it's 10%, then we're talking about 31 cents. So if it were to halt down from 330, then we're talking 297. You could put your order in at 3 to catch it right before the halt. If you got in, I like it down here at $3 with the buy side imbalance. that to me is an interesting debut entry trade. The volume is not particularly high for, even for a low float IPO, but it's not particularly low. So it's not like AERC, which really flew out the gates. Priced at 10, debuted at 40, ran over to 100, but there was just no volume on the block. So we're seeing a buy side imbalance down here at 311. If we see this go live at 310 to 320 and the buy side imbalance holds, then I like this for, I'm not going to go big on it either way. I don't want to get stuck in anything for too long, and this could take a day or two for it to. You don't know how long it could take for this to pop, but my guess is that even if this falls down, if this does fall down, trading groups will get in on it and pump it back up, and that's what we've seen recently. We were seeing sell side imbalance at $3. That's I don't. And then buy side at 320. So let me put in a trade here. I'm just going to do like 500 shares. Why not? The upside on this to me seems to outweigh the downside at this price. And given that, yes, this is a risky trade, don't go spending money you need. Don't go blowing yourself up as I have done in the past. And don't take this as financial advice because it's not. I'm going to go for anything under 330, I guess, is to me an interesting entry. I am tempted to undercut this, but I believe we're going to see, if it does drop, I believe we're going to get a chance to, for it to pop later on. It looks like there's not a lot of imbalance here. And then all of a sudden it goes to 3 with the sell side. That's a little bit odd. I guess if they can move a lot more shares at $3, I'd actually love to see that. It gives us more room to the upside, less risk to the downside. And it's a pretty heavy sell side imbalance, though. I think you almost have to undercut that if that holds. We're 1 minute away, so this really could go at any minute. I'm gonna give it a shot on try to catch right before the downward halt. If we're seeing a sell side imbalance of 120,000 shares at $3, that could push straight down into a halt. That halt would be at 270. 10% drop down. So at 275, you'll get in before it triggers. That's a lot of shares to sell there. Somebody basically with the big allocation said, I don't like what I'm seeing here. Or maybe a lot of people said, I don't like what I'm seeing here. I'll just take my haircut, keep my warrants, and get out while I can. This has hit the 10-minute mark, so they can take this live at any time. Typically, we need to see this number here, this sell side imbalance number, come down to something like 0. But it should come down to like triple digits before we see something go live here. Not seeing buy orders. Something got reset here. So this is in trouble. This is a bit of a broken debut already, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to play the initial. Oh, we might have gone live here. Let's see. Yep, 290, 295. Okay, so 271. Touched just below there, and I got to check my order. I got in at 275. It's now back up to 3 and going up. So I was able to undercut the bid. Now it's starting to rebound. If you put in 271, you really nailed that. But that was the right move. I mean, that was the 10%. That was the 10% move down. Now we have to see which way it goes from here. We are seeing a 30,000 share sell wall there at 315. But I would think that if you were just in a rush to have dumped your shares, you dumped them already. Now we're going to get a little bit of chop, and hopefully we see that low float kick in at some point here. We're already at 600,000 shares, so a lot of selling has been done, and now we are moving. We're going to have to get through this sell wall. We do see these walls act as magnets on both sides, so always careful. You can fool yourself into thinking you have support on the downside and then see it just get sucked into the mud. But here we go. We are taking off. And this is a pretty good start to this. I tend to see things go well up into half of the float, really kind of ripen into the between the half and full float. And for whatever reason, once volume hits that full float, it can go either way. We haven't seen a massive upside move yet, but we're liking our position here at this point. We're so low, relative to where this could go, that I'm not wanting to stop myself out quite yet. We do see a decent support down here at $3, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, rug could get pulled at any time. There's a lot of shares still sitting out there that could get dumped, but we're still early. If you look back at our once it kind of got on people's radar, ran all the way up from 455 to 10. We haven't seen any halts either way. In at 298. Okay, that's pretty safe play given the you can put a stop loss for a non-loss at 299 and play this pretty safely. I was going to say, if you've never traded one of these before and you did get in at the 270, 275 zone, now you're up a nice 10%. You can save yourself a lot of stress and headache and lock in a win here at, say, 299. Put that stop loss in. It could slip. Just because you have a stop loss on one of these, if someone just rug pulls, you might not get. You won't get filled at 299. You might get 295, 290. If there's a halt down, your stop loss won't save you. But it does seem that this is trading with without. It kind of got through the opening halt risk by a penny, and you can take profits as you go. That's a good point. You don't have to limit yourself to a single exit. You can say, okay, well, I'm up 10%. I'll take, put a stop loss on half my order, so I don't take a bath on more than that. You could take out 10% now and say, all right, well, I've made some profit, but there's no rule, and it's something that took me a while as a trader to realize, wait, I don't have to time everything to once, either when I'm buying in or when I'm getting out. And you'll see that really experienced traders tend to, especially day traders, they kind of are building their position when it's moving one way and exiting their position as it moves another. They might put a stop loss in to protect their entire play if they feel that they may have misread it. But unless you're like just dead set that, hey, this company is the future of optical component technology, and I want to buy in now because this is going to $10 in a week or something. I don't know. It's never going to go lower than $3. You're looking to take your profits early. So this has given us a bit of a staggering stop losses. Yeah, so you can stagger your stop losses. You can stagger your entries. Call those ladder trades, especially when you're getting in on a ladder. This one gave us we pretty much called this about as perfectly as we could have, other than thinking that it would halt. And that might have been Trading Fit Girl's trade that kept it out of the halt. Your buy order literally might have kept it from halting down. But probably some other people were down there as well. It's a pretty good, when we saw that heavy sell side imbalance at $3, we just subtracted 10%. We made that mark at 270. I went a little bit higher. I went to 275 just to ensure that I got in, and it did exactly what we thought it would do. So it came down to 271. It then reversed. The low float is kicked in. We're starting to approach that. I guess we've slowed down in volume a little bit. Once we get towards 1.5, I kind of feel like we're going to see which way this is going to go. If this is going to run a bit more, my guess is that it's between 1. Once volume here gets to about 1.5 to 2.5. As we start to get to 3, then matching the actual float is 3.7 million shares. So we can't trust this number. Webull, is an imperfect system, but okay, starting to trim some out at 320. I like to see it break through one level on these IPOs. We see them come up often and then break up into a second level. I'd be happy to take $1 on this. If we get up to 375, I will probably sign off. We are still way overbought on this. Overbought. RSI has not come down. So at some point, this does need to come off, come off this high. But until we have reached that 3, get towards the full free float, I feel like we still have a leg up here. I like to play that second leg up and we often see a third, but at that point, I will start looking at putting it. If we get another big green wick up, I'll probably set my stop loss, and I'm not trying to be here all day. But we have made a pretty nice play here so far, and I would hate to turn that into a loss. So I think I'm thinking we're kind of at a critical moment here. It's getting towards that 1.5. I'd like to wait and see where that holds. MTEK. Hold on. Figured out the right balance for how to live stream these and trade at the same time. Not even sure if that's really something you're supposed to do, but whatever. Stop at 3. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put my, I'm going to say, look, if this runs from here, I don't know, can't do that. Yeah. I think we're about to see, no, can't do that. Okay, so the bid price came down a bit, and I'm losing my chance to get out where I want to get out. Need to be faster. 310. Okay. Oh, shit. Okay, so I'm putting my stop loss in a little tight here. I'm going to say, look, if it runs from here, great. I will take an exit at 310. If it doesn't run, if it comes back to VWAP, I got other stuff to do today. I'm happy with a little bit of a win here. I really just wanted to show up and live stream this, get this out there, help people get into this. $3 will print. And stop loss at 310. Yeah, so that's where I'm at too. Stop loss at 310, giving this a chance to run. We've got a few orders here. Volume has sort of dried up a little bit before we got to the halfway mark. That doesn't mean it won't come back in, but we haven't seen this just catch fire. If we get any drier, we're starting to touch down to RSI 70. Once we come down into that 30 to 70 range, we sometimes see reversals. So we've not really seen any distinctive patterns here yet. Up at 320, that's a nice, it's a nice upward movement. We definitely undercut that perfectly. I'm glad we didn't buy in on the debut at $3. I'd be kind of grateful that I'm sitting up, but sitting up at a 15% win, locked in. That feels really great. And if you really want to let it ride, you got really good support here, and you could just put it. I just want to take that extra $50 or whatever it is on my position. I will, if we get a jump up, then unfortunately VWAP is here at 365, so we might see it come down and touch VWAP before it runs. We often get that kind of move, but we're starting to flag here. We're getting a little bit of a pennant shape, and we should expect a breakout in one direction or another at some point. I tend to think, since we haven't seen an upward move, that second upward move on this, and we just hit that halfway mark on the volume. The halfway mark, this number is misleading. I have to remember that. So once we see like 1.7, 1.8, that's when I would expect to get a stronger indication of which way this is going. But there is a pretty good chance that it touches VWAP before it runs, and I expect to get stopped out before that. I think I just got stopped out. Yeah. Stopped out. Just verifying my trade here. There we go. Yep. So now I'm out. Now it'll probably run. No biggie. Wasn't an immediate runner, but we took a, let me just see what that was. That was 35 cents on 500 shares, so $175, whatever. Not a huge trade. This market was a little bit from 2 to 2. Okay, so took a $175 win on that, and nice little trade. That was fun. Yeah. I mean, I like these. I like live trading IPOs. It's fun. I wish I'd started doing the live coverage sooner. The last year we had a lot of really exciting ones, and this year has been a little bit slow to get us started. But here we are, making money and coaching people into the trade. So I still think we're above VWAP. We have a lot of upside still here. $3 on a $4.20 IPO, even with the warrants involved. I'm going to check really quickly to see what the warrants are priced at. So the warrants are priced at 74 cents. So let's call it 75 cents. The bid ask is 72.74. So if you add that to 310 plus 75, we're looking at 485. You made 310 plus 75. Okay, so you're down if you bought the, my IPO position is underwater. So that is a good indication for where this is right now. You would think that until it gets to that IPO price, you got people wanting to hold this. We have definitely slowed down on volume a bit, in the opening minutes. In the opening 5 minutes, we had no halts, but in the opening 5 minutes, we had 1 million shares trade. The next 5 minutes, we had 400,000. Now we're down to 250 in the next 5 minutes. So volume is coming down. That's not a great look. I mean, that's standard. You're always gonna have the most volume on an IPO right on the opening minutes. This actually is pretty strong to see. The minutes 2 and 3 produce higher volumes than the opening ticker. And now we're coming back to VWAP. As long as it kind of holds VWAP, the upside run is still in play. If I were playing this conservatively, I wouldn't want to go, you got people holding up 3, but these can act as magnets. People can sell off and dump there. So live streams are helpful. Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to do it. Thanks for coming. Please subscribe and like and all that good stuff. Do these more often. I try to do them as often as there are IPOs to trade. I also enjoy them. They get me, it all pushes me a little bit to do a little bit more research. I do need to figure out a little bit better of an approach for how to divide my focus here while I'm doing them, and apologize for the pauses when I have to look at the other screens. I've got 4 screens going live plus the monitor and my phone. I have to disconnect one monitor just to plug the camera and the mic in. But I will stay on for, let's say, I will stay on for 8 more minutes. So I wish there were IPOs every day. There was a time last year when there were IPOs every day. The market's pretty cool right now, so mainstream IPOs are kind of shelved. I want to take a look at what did CRDO. That one really was a brave one and went live in incredibly cold market conditions. And I think they paid the price for it. That has dipped as low as 1080 off of 1210 debut. So I priced the IPO at $10, which is at the low end of the range. They took about $100 million less than they had hoped for. This is Credo Technology Group. And the IPO, they priced it down at 10. They debuted at 1210, as I recall. It pretty much came down to 11, baselined at 11, and then made a run to like 1260 or something at the end of day one, and then faded out. Then at TCBP, let's put that on watch. I think that's a biotech. Generally don't like biotechs. Yeah, Friday we have DRCT, which I did put a small allocation request in on Webull. It's got good numbers, but it's really, to me, looks like a glorified digital marketing company. Samsara Vision, which is a biotech implantable device. They implant a microscope into your eye. I don't know. To me, that feels more like one of those wait for it to drop and then buy it before the QPX, before the quiet period expiration. Wait for the headline and then sell that pop. Price target for this in the long term. I think you gotta wait till there's a little bit more analyst coverage. I would look at 525 as the warrant redemption price. The IPO price was 420 minus 75 if you count the warrants at 75 cents. So that brings you to what, 345. I think you would see people starting to kind of sell out there. Bought the open and made 36 cents. Nice. Yeah, please subscribe to I'm going to get Trading Fit Girl. Sorry, I'm going to take your banner down. Trading Fit Girl's got great insights on the quiet period expiration, the lockup expiration, how to trade these kind of recent low float IPOs after the dust has settled a little bit. So I highly advise you follow her on Twitter. She's got some premium content on Venmo that's worth checking out. And let's see, wait, what do I have here? PayPal. Oh, yeah. If you guys like to support what I do, I take PayPal. I also have the Fundly campaign still up. So if you feel like helping me out there, I appreciate it. On Twitter, we are at Twitter at Warrior IPO. Banner. Go. Show. Okay. And then you can sign up for the newsletter if you're not already getting it at IPOwarriors.com. Oh, we can scroll across the bottom. Awesome. Well, we got all sorts of cool stuff in here. I am still getting used to this. I think this is about the 3rd or 4th live stream that we've done. I will try to up my game a little bit and be prepared for some really blockbuster ones coming up. Of course, the goal is to try to get this to 1,000 subscribers. Then YouTube can help pay the bills a little bit. But until then, I am paying for everything out of my own pocket with a bit of generous support from members of the community here. Everybody who contributed to the live streaming setup, I greatly appreciate it. I hope others of you who are joining us on the stream appreciate it as well. Benzinga also kicked out for some gear. They got me some stuff that you can't see here. Oh, they got me this microphone. Yeah, mic with a stand. They got me a monitor, which is allowing me to kind of see myself, make sure my eyebrows aren't sticking up like a crazy professor. Here we go with a little bit of a run here on MTEK, bouncing off of VTEK, of VWAP, sorry, MTEK, VWAP, VTEK, VWAP. VWAP is this yellow line here. It is the volume weighted average price. In other words, what the average price of all the shares that have been sold today have sold for. And this is sort of your North Star when it comes to trading IPOs. We don't really have a lot, I don't know how they do a 20-day moving average, for example, which they're trying to show me when this hasn't traded for 10 or 20 days. It does not make any sense. VWAP does make a lot of sense. So when something's bullish and moving in the upward trend, it won't generally fall too far below VWAP. Once VWAP gets broken, you can kind of expect it at some point to maybe yo-yo back up. But when it's above VWAP, we're in kind of like a bullish run, but you also have to kind of expect it to kind of make touches back down to VWAP. When it was up here, I said I believe it will come back and touch VWAP before it goes up. I wasn't quite sure how it would do that. It made a little bit more of a curl down than just a touch and go, as we sometimes see. But once it's kind of touched VWAP a little bit, you might see people start to like build their position here if they're day traders. And we're now getting towards 2.2 million shares. This is sort of kind of between the half of the float and the full float, where I feel we see a lot of runs occur. And now is a time when, if you got in at 3 or you got under there and you've held up to this point, you may want to consider kind of bringing your stop loss up if you're exiting a portion of your position. As we move towards kind of 3 million shares, I think we're going to get another inflection point. I don't know which way that'll go. But a lot of times once we get towards the full float, we see things sort of cool down a little bit, unless we're just really ripping along. Not seeing that in this stock. I'm not seeing, we've seen some of these low float IPOs. I think Our posted like 50 million shares on the first day, and that was a 1.5 million share float. So we're not seeing that kind of craziness here. But we are seeing some, we're seeing some healthy movement here. I consider this to be a pretty comfortable trade to be in if you followed our lead here and bought this initial dip. It was clear as clear of a setup as I can imagine, with a heavy sell side imbalance at 3. We said, let's take 10% off of that. That's 270. Let's put our entry right above 270 just to make sure we get in before, if it halts, we would expect a reversal and it would open. Oftentimes we'll see that downward halt open back up like above at like 280, 290, even 3. So I wanted to try to put myself in a position to get in before a potential halt. Here we go. Here comes that run. So I said before, we got one level up. This is that second level up. At this point, we very likely could see a bit of a breakout for a bit. If this moves like Hour, it could take a little while. It could be a day long, steady increase. I tend to get out of these too early, but we are still early in the day. I mean, we just hit noon. I said I was going to stop here, but things are just starting to cook, so I'm gonna stay on a little bit longer. We can see this move up to the 340, 350 range. I mean, there's really no limit on this. We're to the point now where, anyone who did buy in up here, the buyers here are now in blue skies. We still have, allocation holders in this, but a lot of people who took their profits right away are, the people who dumped right away, the 250,000 sellers right on the opening minute, those are gone. So at some point, once we get past that, and that's why I kind of look at that. I know it's not, with people like us who bought in after it opened, already sold our positions. Um, you know, those are that's accounted for in this volume, but we also have a lot of IPO allocations that have sold off already. But I think we're going to see, I think until we get through, say, like that 420, $4 level, we still have to expect that there's people, people holding ready to exit. The rest are day traders, and the day traders will look for often 10%, 10% wins. We saw that kind of like 3 to 320, 330. Just didn't quite get 330. But people who got in here at 305, 310, they're selling at 340. That's their 10% win. So, pretty good IPO. I think anytime you can get in, and from your position, it just goes up. That's the most comfortable trade in the world to be sitting in. There's no reason to expose yourself to risk at this point. If you got in down here, if you got in anywhere below 3, you got VWAP at 309. No reason at all to take a loss on this. This can reverse quickly. It sort of looks like it's just building. We can take a look over at Twitter and see if people are talking about it. Not a lot of conversation. Okay, here we go. People talking. First sales were at highs for a quick 10%. Oh, these are people in the group. Thanks for this. Heard this song. Oh, yeah, great. Using MTEK has more interesting tech. All right. Another one I like is IPO Dave on Twitter. I follow him pretty closely. What type to get ignored today? Lower levels. Interesting story stock to get played by next week. Who knows anymore? $3 lottery ticket. Yeah. No, I think this one will climb for a bit, but again, no reason to take chances. Lock in. This is that second level up here. We got the first level here. We're maybe in the second level here. I think I would, if I had taken a larger play on this, maybe half there and then another half stop loss at 330. In this market, I like to stay pretty tight with things. Absolutely no reason to turn a win into a loss, and don't want to leave. But you still haven't hit the 3.7 million kind of target at which I would kind of close the book on this. VWAP has moved up to 311, so you can set your stop loss at 310 and still be, coasting over VWAP. This is a really nice, gentle trade to me. Love it when it just goes up. You're not sitting there hoping, and then what happens when it does drop? If you buy the debut or it goes below your entry and it goes down, now you're sitting there going, "Oh man, please come back, please come back." I swear I'll get out if it just let me get out at break even. And then it comes back to break even, and then you start getting greedy, and you're like, "Oh, okay, wait, no, I'm gonna turn this into a win." And then it bounces off your level and goes back down, and you start, promising that you'll sell for a non-loss again if you're given the chance. But every time it comes back up to your entry, and it's just this mental game that I hate playing. Whereas when you get in low, we called that perfectly on the debut. Get in low, ride it up here, set your stop loss, let the trade just trade for you. As others pointed out, you don't have to sell it all at once. Take out half here, let the rest ride. This is looking really strong right now. I've got to also think about my allocations that I got and where am I going to be on the sell side of this. We have a pretty strong sell wall at 350. One of the great things about IPOs is we don't have shorts, and that's because there's no shares available to short usually. So when we don't have shorts, we can assume that these are all people who actually have stocks. We can't have shorts come in and just sense some weakness in volume and start hammering this down, which we see with some of the other kind of recent low float IPOs that I know that Inspira INN, had a huge short position at some point. It just seems like every time it tries to run, it gets beaten down. I don't believe those are sellers so much as bears just going, I don't think that I think at this price, the buyers, about 330 right now on Inspira, we see buyers start to think that, well, maybe I want to wait for it to come back down before I continue to build my position, and shorts sense that weakness and hammer it back down to 3, or even below 3, and then it seems to recover pretty quickly. So one of the great things about these IPOs is that they don't have, they're not shortable. So we're purely looking at buyers and, sellers. It's a much easier equation for me to process in my mind. I am not a great day trader. I like to keep things really simple for myself. I like to get in, low, sell ideally high, and not try to be too greedy. I have 2 rules in my trading. The first one is to take profits without regret. So yeah, I got out early. I let this run up here. I said, you know what? I'm happy with the, $175 win on a pretty small play to begin with. So I'm going to lock in my, I looked at this candle right here. I said, all right, 312, I'll put down to 310. And if it goes down below 310, I get stopped out, whatever. If it, flags right here and just runs, great. If not, okay, well, didn't lose money, made some money. I took profits. I have no regrets. I will watch and learn for the next trade. My second rule is don't chase. If you are just joining us now, which I don't think you found out about this late, and this has already made a big move from, we're talking about a 20% move from, where we got in, more than 20% move from where we got into where it is now. This is not where I like to get in. I don't like to say, it's already up, I'm going to jump in now. I don't chase, because every time I've done that, I've gotten burned pretty hard. And you're looking for the opportunity, before it happens. And that goes for so many trades that I've learned don't work well for me. There was a time when I thought I could, other people can day trade. I can day trade, and I'd go look at what, had the big pop in the pre-market and try to figure out where that dip was and get in, and, when it would come, play it on the way back to V. It's not the trade that's ever been a great setup for me. The best setups for me, get in before things pop. Pets, for example, we talked about it in our Reddit group, the IPO Warriors Reddit group, and, caught it, what, $1.20, $1.40, most of us got in. And then when it ripped, we already had our seats at the table. Inspira, before it made its first big run, and now before this last run, we're buying in before it makes its moves. You want to be in before everybody else starts, jumping into it. And, if you really have the technical chops to trade, moving high volume, okay, it's really great skill to have. I have a lot of respect for you. For me, I can't figure it out, and I'm not trying to chase. So rule number 2 is don't chase. The rest are kind of guidelines. I don't play biotech pharmas. 9 out of 10 times they just drop, and I have no idea how to spot which ones are going to go and which ones are going to fall. But when most of them fall, I just realize that's not an IPO I like to get involved with. I try to keep my rules as simple as my trading. It's one of the things I like about IPOs. I really don't have to think too much about when I'm going to get in. I'm going to get in my plan is to usually get in off the debut, either undercutting, laddering, or just buying straight off the opening trade. Really depends on what I see in that pre-market debut. If you watch from the beginning of our live stream today, you saw exactly how we do it. We look at the imbalance. We see buy side, sell side, where's the price at, and, set our entry up usually right at that point. Sometimes I'll really wait and see if it comes way down, but by that point I'm kind of like, I didn't have a lot of conviction. I'm not going to chase if it blows up right off the debut. If it drops really hard, I'm going to probably watch it for a while before getting in. Night Scope, we watched that, and it just didn't partly because it wasn't available on all the trading desks. Decided, hey, I'm not going to do that again. I got myself in trouble with that. When you see a ticker, and sometimes this happens with the IPOs, is that the ticker isn't registered with every trading desk. I actually talked with one of the underwriters who was part of that deal, not as the underwriter, but as the market maker yesterday about it. They didn't know, they didn't realize that it was not registered. They kind of just they didn't set the schedule. They pulled the trigger on how it debuted. And that was an interesting conversation, actually. I've always wondered, how do they make that decision? Who makes that decision? Is this some automate? Like, when does it go live? We know that there's no set time. There is a set time for when they start pricing, when the shares start going up for, for bid. For this one, it was at 11:25, but we saw that for 10 minutes, they were doing kind of a price discovery process where they're balancing the shares. And I've always been curious, how does that handled? And I talked to the person yesterday who handled the night scope balancing, and he's the guy who pulled the trigger on the debut. And he said, well, what happens is a few minutes before we get on the phone with NASDAQ, the operators of the NASDAQ where the stock, was being traded. And they're telling us for 10 minutes, like, okay, it has to go for 10 minutes. After that, you tell us when you want to go live. And this is not the underwriter. He's designated as the market maker, but he's sitting there going, he's, I guess, standing right next to the underwriter. And so the underwriter is kind of influencing him in a sense that then, he's getting the price from NASDAQ, and NASDAQ's going, okay, well, it's at 11 now. Okay, now it's at 12. Now it's at 14. Now it's at 15. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. Whenever you're ready, we can go live. And the underwriter's standing right next to him going, 15, take it, take it, take it. And he's going, no, let's wait and see if it goes up a little bit. It came down to 14, and then sensed maybe that interest was waning a little bit. I think maybe it went down a little bit and then came back up to 14, and they go 14, 14.30, 14.44. Okay, go live now. NASDAQ goes, are you sure? He goes, yes, take it live. You hear click, click. And then the rest of the world, us, we see it open. And in that one, halt down, 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 down. Okay, so we are seeing MTEK come back down to VWAP. This is 313 was the low. We've seen it give up RSI 70. It's now almost perfectly undersold and oversold and right at VWAP. So I kind of feel like the trajectory of this is to hold above VWAP, but we really don't know. Again, I would have put my, once we got up to this level, this is level 2 for me. This is level 1. This is level 2. Once I see that level 2, I'm thinking 350. I'm taking 5 cents off of that, 345. I'm either getting that out of that on a limit order, or I'm raising my stop loss here. I think I said that. Raise your stop loss as this comes up. Now you're back down to 310. That was sort of, we saw resistance here. We're going to see resistance at the $3 level, but if it falls through that, this really could go. And when you see the short list here, that means there's no buyers below this level. This very well could be the underwriter holding this up. Underwriters do sometimes protect a certain price level. It doesn't look good, although I don't know that the underwriters care that much about an IPO like this one. These aren't underwriters that are really, the low float underwriters are, for the most part, they want to keep their track record clean, but they're making money off of, they make pretty heavy fees on the IPO from the companies that are going live. So you're not going to see the same kind of thing where, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, when they do mainstream IPOs, they don't really want to let it fall below the IPO price, especially if it's debuted at a nice premium for their investors. They're trying to also protect their investors' interests over the long term so that their investors will keep buying them. It doesn't, it's not completely disregarded for these, but we just didn't get a lot of hype on this one. A little bit surprised. We got enough to give it a run, but certainly not something that people bought into right away. I tend to see that trading groups are willing to be a little bit quiet about these. We certainly saw that with KSCP. We saw it with FGI. Saw it with Vine. We saw it with a few of these other kind of random low float ones where the pump and dumpers like to watch these, I believe, and then accumulate over the first day, or any kind of drop. And then once they have a position built up, all right, we just hit the IPO volume 370, and we kind of saw it trail off into that. Then they'll run it. Then they'll, once they have their position, then they can pump it a bit. And we've seen that a lot on day two, which is a reason why, unless I've really screwed up, I usually won't sell on day one for a loss. Especially for mainstream IPOs, we'll get this day two media cycle where, people will kind of be like, oh, this company went public yesterday. I didn't know that. I want to buy some of that. And that day two media cycle, especially on mainstream IPOs, often saves the IPO. We saw that with AI when it IPO'd, C3 AI, ticker AI. We saw that with Unity. It had a pretty bad first day. It debuted at a premium if you bought the actual IPO, but none of us got that. So we bought the debut and it dipped pretty hard. I held, and then day two it rallied and actually went on a pretty crazy run after that, both AI and Unity. So if you take especially when you're trading these more mainstream ones, if it's a recognizable brand name and you get in a little bit of an underside position on day one, it's worth holding for day two. A lot of people will kind of wake up to come home and read the headlines, or wake up the next day and see the headlines that this company that they know or they like IPO'd, and then it will, go on an early, a run on the early market open. So there are another one is the, lockup expiration, the QPX, quiet period expiration. That's where we've seen some, especially I think the maybe lesser known. I know that one of the first IPOs I traded where I was sitting in a bag for a little while was Duck Creek. Debuted at like 42 or something and went down to 38, 39. That was when almost every tech related IPO was blowing up, and then this one didn't. But then once the QPX came along, the quiet period expired and coverage started. It came up to, from 38, 39, came back up to 42, 43, 44. And I was able to get out without suffering a loss, and was like, I am never going to lose. And that, I eventually did lose. But if you really stick to the mainstream ones, you stick to the clearer winners. I think one of the mistakes I got into sort of after, was getting a little bit overconfident and thinking that, IPOs were indestructible. And the first kind of substantial loss I took was on Bumble, which was stupid because I was way up, I was up. I just got sort of mentally tormented by thinking I was going to get an allocation from E-Trade. Then they pulled their allocation the day of, and the IPO price was like 36 and it debuted at 76. And I thought I was going to get like, I don't know, 1,000 shares, 2,000 shares, and was going to make like 100 grand overnight. But then when I was stuck playing it retail and I was up like 5 or 6 points on it, I was also on vacation. Instead of just locking in a win, I got greedy and ended up suffering a loss on it. But you will take losses in playing IPOs, but on the upside, I have made way more than I've lost. And that says a lot, considering that I once lost over $100,000 on a very poorly thought out, or not thought out. I think there's a lot going on in my life at that moment on SIDU, SIDU. I should never have touched that. It was a $5 IPO, or $4 IPO, $5 IPO that debuted at 27. I have no idea what I was thinking. I had not slept for a few days. My dad was in emergency care. Russia was, just starting to threaten Ukraine. I'd had COVID a month before. My wife had just gotten pregnant. I was not in a mental state to trade. These are pretty, these can get pretty exciting. And when you put $50,000 or $100,000 on a trade, and you're sitting there waiting for the IPO to debut, that's where you probably want to write down your strategy ahead of time. I really find that reading my newsletters before the trade, I even said in SIDU for SIDU, I said in my newsletter, if this debuts at a hefty premium, be very careful on a downside reversal and manage your risk accordingly. but I totally forgot that when the, came down. It's almost like, I don't know which side of the brain it is, but one side takes over, and it's not the think really smart, like well thought out thoughts. Once you start seeing that IPO, that pre-IPO crossing, you start managing your trade and trying to keep yourself in. So you really, it's not a bad idea to have something written down, have your strategy written down, and then stick to that strategy. It doesn't seem like it's that hard, but it can be very hard when you're in the moment. This isn't long-term investing where you really have the time to go dig up. You have to have done your research ahead of time, and that's why I try to help people out with that research. I feel like I know what to do, and Coinbase was one where I ended up kind of dividing my trade into two pieces, and I said, look, from the debut, expect a short-lived run, like 20 or 30 minutes, and then a reversal. So if you're looking to short-term trade this, get out after the first 20 or 30 minutes. And it did. It debuted at like 380, ran up to 420 or 430, and then it just dropped and it never came back. So the half of my position where I said, okay, I'm going to day trade this, I made, a good win. I took a good win. And the part that I lost, in retrospect, I kind of wonder why I didn't just, like, since I did call that, why I didn't stop loss at least where at my entry. I didn't expect it to go that far down, and thought, eventually it would rebound. But why I don't stick, when I stick to my plans, when I stick to my notes, I'm almost like, I'm right more than 90% of the time. At every single major loss, I've gone back, read my newsletter, read my notes, and realized that, oh yeah, I told myself not to do that. So take notes, write down. It triggers a different side of your brain. It, it gets you going. It gets you. It keeps you from making stupid mistakes. Set your rules, follow them. All right. Going to catch up in some of the comments here. Thanks for the emails. Appreciate it too, guys. Any idea how many minutes it was between the time it opened for trading and the time you bought in the 270s? Okay, so Bob, what happened was we sat here at, it was instantaneous. It was absolutely instantaneous. It was opened, dropped to 271, and immediately started moving back up. And what we had, so we had it was, I know that I think a few of us, we said, okay, it's at $3 at the pre-debut indication, which we saw. We saw a heavy sell side imbalance. It was up to like 100,000 shares or 70,000 shares on the. You can go back and watch the video. This will get posted afterwards if you want to go replay it. You're welcome to do so. And we said, okay, $3. If it opens into a downward halt, the halt would be at 270, a 10% drop. And if we see that downward halt, there's a pretty good chance that will be the low, that it will then open at above that halt price. So we want to get in right before that halt, and we want to get in. So I put mine at 275. Trading Fit Girl put hers at 271 and called it absolutely to the penny. But that was the call. It just opened, dropped right away. The sells were instantaneous. We got in and it reversed back up, and we had a pretty comfortable ride. I got out at 310 with a stop loss up here. Others, I hope, got out up here at a stop loss. So I like the trailing stop loss on a play like this, because you don't know when the reversal is going to come unless you're just kind of, saying, no, screw it, I'm just in for the ride. But the other place where you could, if you got in at 270 and you said, look, I'll take it's basically a 10% win and let it ride. I'll just put like 298 and you'd still be in this. At some point, it just seems to me like people have sold off who want to sell off. Now it's not hugely volatile. Volume has definitely died out. At some point, it could either trail off as sort of the interest wanes and day traders go, well, is there anything going on here? No, nothing to see here. All right. Go somewhere else. But it is still a recent, it will be on the watch list for a while, for at least a few days now. It didn't sink low enough to really be something where people are just like, oh, I can't, trading groups aren't piling into, I don't see the double wall. I see This wall right here hasn't been touched, and that's kind of holding things up. I don't see an accumulation pattern. I just see this kind of riding out here. Maybe towards the end of the day, it makes a move one way or another. But yeah, that opening move, you had to have your limit order in before it started trading. You didn't get to watch that and make a decision. You just called that while we were watching, before it started trading. We saw that in the pre-debut indication. We had our limit orders set, and we took our entry rate off that knife down. So third minute opened at 298, looked in 320. First 2 minutes were below 290, but it was coming back. It was kind of pushing $3. So hope that answers your questions there. This is where you're day trading this at this point, and I can't help you too much at that, with that, other than to say don't turn a win into a loss. So I would look at this, although it just kind of feels like that gets broken. We can draw all sorts of fancy lines that, who knows if they're, what they mean, but there's a line connecting peaks. Is that a reversal point? I have no idea. I'm not the right person to ask. I would have just got in down here and gotten out probably already. If not, protect yourself from turning a win into a loss. Lock in your 10%. Go for a stop loss at 299. If it breaks through this wall, this guy's taken out, this trader's taken out, and you will be next. Otherwise, you can kind of just sit back, relax, and see what it does. But I think we've seen the action on this one. I hope you guys had a good time. I am going to shut this down, and we'll catch you guys on the next trade.